Hello, I am Reverend Dr. Namches. In this video, we'll learn about HTML character entities. HTML character entities are special codes used to represent special characters in HTML. But before I would continue with this video, if this is your first time of joining a HTML website class or web design class, I will advise you to search for my video that's titled Your First Step in Developing a HTML Website Page. This video will act as a background and it will help you in this HTML journey. Now we move back to the title of this video, which talks about HTML character entities. Now there are some special characters that cannot be directly typed in a HTML website, something like an arrow pointing northeast. Some things like that cannot be typed in our HTML documents, so we use HTML character entities to represent them. And so we have the HTML entity name and the HTML entity number are both HTML character entities. So it is either you represent the special characters with HTML entity names, or you can equally represent the same special characters with the equivalent HTML entity numbers. And so the entity name begins with an ampersand, as you can see on the screen, with an ampersand, entity number, and ends with a semicolon. So the entity number, the second one, is represented begins with an ampersand as well, and then but followed by a hash, and equally ends with a semicolon. And so I will quickly head back to my root folder. The name of my root folder is my website. The my website root folder was created in the first video of this HTML series. So we have done a lot of work in it, and now I've opened it. Now you can see my subfolders, the 5 of them, and my 4 HTML files. And so the index.html is our home page, and as usual we'll open it twice. Remember, we are working with Notepad, and so I will first right click on it and open with Notepad, and I open with Notepad. So these are the codes that we have done thus far, and so I'll minimize, and then I will open it the second time, but this time I will open with a browser. So I would prefer to open with Google Chrome. Okay, so I've opened with Google Chrome, and these are the things that we have done thus far. These are the activities we have done thus far. In our last video, we learned how to code the favicon, HTML favicon, in our HTML page. And so the first HTML entity we would like to work on, or consider the work we have already done, we'll add a trademark to Digital Classrooms Nigeria. And so we quickly open our notepad, and then we scroll to the top of the page, the notepad, and this is welcome to Digital Classrooms Nigeria. And so we first of all use entity name. So we begin with ampersand, TRADE, and then a semicolon. Remember, I told you that an entity name begins with an ampersand, just as I highlighted an ampersand, and then at the middle you have the entity name, and then finally it ends with a semicolon. And so I will click my file, and then I will save, and then I'll refresh. So you can see that welcome to Digital Classroom Nigeria. You can see the trademark. You can see the trademark has been added. And so we would like to use entity number. The entity number for TM, that's for trademark, is 8482. And so I'll quickly head back to the notepad, and now ampersand 8482, okay, ampersand hash ampersand hash 8482 semicolon. So I will highlight it, ampersand hash 8482 semicolon, and then I will head to I'll click file, save, head to my browser, and refresh. So you will notice that the trademark just appeared twice, appeared the second time. Now this first trademark, I achieved it with entity name, while I achieved the second trademark with entity number. So as you can see on the notepad, this was the first one I achieved with the entity name, and this was the second one I achieved with the entity number. So, and it's very important to note that entity names are usually easier to remember than entity numbers. But there are so many websites you can go to Google and Google entity character entities, entity names, entity numbers. You don't need to cram them, you don't need to put them in your head on your memory. You don't have to suffer yourself to memorize them. They are all in Google. So I would rather delete one and leave the other. So I will click file, click save, head to my browser, refresh. So we have one trademark HTML entity. And so right inside our notepad, we want to do the all right reserved, where we put the copyright character entity. And so I would write before the end body tag, I will create a paragraph, and then close the paragraph immediately. So all right reserved digital classrooms Nigeria, full stop. And so I would like to put a copyright at the front of digital classrooms Nigeria. So I will simply type the ampersand COPY semicolon, and then I will give a space. And so I will click on file, click on save, head to my browser, and then I refresh. So when I scroll down, I will see the all right reserved. I will see the copyright digital classrooms Nigeria. And so I can equally represent this copyright as highlighted. I can represent with entity number 169. So I will head entity number 169. I will head to my notepad. This copy, okay, I will do the both at the same time. Ampersand hash 169 semicolon, and then I'll, so you can see this and this does the same work. This is entity name and this is entity number. Both this entity name and entity number does the same work. They produce copyright special character. So I will click file, I'll click save, head to my browser, and then I refresh. So when I refresh, I will notice that the copyright special character has been duplicated. So I would simply go and delete one. I can delete the entity name and leave the entity number. That's how I wish to do it. So I will click save. And so I can equally add the registered trademark. The initial one we did was just trademark. We can add a registered trademark. Okay, alright, let's just put it here for academic purposes. We will type ampersand REG semicolon, or we can simply type ampersand hash 174 with a semicolon. So I will click on file and click on save. So when I refresh my browser, you would notice that ampersand reg and ampersand hash 174 are the same. They do the same work. Ampersand reg is entity name, while ampersand hash 174 semicolon is entity number. So I head back to my browser and then I refresh. So I scroll up, I will notice that I have two registered trademarks. The first I achieved with entity name, the second I achieved with entity number. And so you can equally type fractions. Fractions. Okay, for example, I would want to add our web design fee is now $100. That's $100. The fraction of $100 and $500 is 1/5. So I would add 1/5 of initial payment. So I will head to my notepad and then, okay, yeah, that's where it is. That is it. Our web design fee is now 100. You can see I use the del tag to strike out $500. And so I would write ampersand frac FRAC 15 frac FRAC 15 semicolon. So frac FRAC 15 semicolon simply means 1/5. I can edit it to frac 14. I can edit it to frac 12, frac 13. Okay, for the sake of our study, frac 15. So I will click on file and click on save. Head back to my browser, refresh. Okay, I will complete the statement. First of all, before I refresh, frac 15, 1/5 of initial amount, NT, full stop. And so I would want to put a comma. So I head to my browser, I click file and save. I head to my browser and I refresh. So you can see 1/5 of initial amount. Our web design fee is now, it's no longer $500. It is now $100, 1/5 of initial amount. And so what if I want to represent tags, just like paragraph tag, just like heading H1, just like H6, just like P, which represent paragraph? What if I want to represent paragraph as a tag, not as paragraph, not as a word, but as a tag on my HTML page? How do I do that? I can simply use HTML entity numbers or HTML entity names. So I would want to add right after this full stop, I may want to add this represents paragraph opening tag, and then this also this represents HTML paragraph opening tag. So we'll do that. I will click on my notepad and then okay, I'll do that just right after October 2025. So I will create a paragraph P, and then I ensure that I close it immediately. And now in between the opening and the closing tag, I can type this represents the opening HTML paragraph tag. Now I meant to write this. Okay, I meant to write this. I meant to present it this way, but I can't write this like this because HTML misunderstand it. HTML may think that I opened a paragraph tag that which I did not close, and then it will cause quite some problem. So I would have to use HTML entity number or HTML entity name to represent less than, and then use the same to represent greater than. So how do I do that? I'll have to delete this. I will also have to delete this. And now the less than sign is represented by ampersand LT semicolon, while the greater than sign, which used to be this, which was this, is represented by ampersand GT, which is greater than, GT means greater than, and then semicolon. So I will click file. You can see ampersand less than LT. LT stands for less than, and then you can see the less than sign. And then you see our paragraph P. Immediately after P, this represents the greater than sign. And so I'll click file, save, head to my browser and refresh. So you see, this represents the opening HTML tag. And now that's the tag. That's the tag. That's how I represented the tag so that my HTML will not misinterpret it. And so I can simply do the same for HTML closing tag. So I'll head back to my notepad. Okay, I can paraphrase my statement. I can rephrase my statement. This represents the HTML paragraph opening and closing tags. So I just rephrased my closing. This represents my HTML paragraph opening and closing tags. So this represents the opening tag. So we simply do the same for the closing tag. So ampersand less than sign, now a backslash P ampersand greater than sign, and then a semicolon. So I will cross check ampersand. It begins with an ampersand and ends with a semicolon. Now LT in between. Now a backslash, then the paragraph itself, and then the greater than sign begins with an ampersand, ends with a semicolon, and then GT represents greater than. So I will click file, click save, head to my browser, and then refresh. So this represents the HTML paragraph opening and closing tags P opening tag, P closing tag. And so I would encourage you to Google several HTML entities. Okay, we'll do just that. HTML entities. Okay, I'll click HTML entities, and you can see a whole lot of them. HTML entities. This is a list of so many of them. I wouldn't want to open any of them, so I would advise you on your own. You have seen how we used the ampersand, the entity name, the entity name and semicolon to represent the HTML entity name. And you have seen how we used the ampersand, the hash, and the entity number to represent the HTML entity number. We can also add glyphs to our letters. We can add glyphs. They are called diacritical marks. And then I would look for where to add the glyph. So I can simply type, immediately after this, I can simply type, this is a U with a glyph, Glyph. And then I will use entity number 770. So ampersand hash 770 with a semicolon, and I'll click file and save. I am not done yet, but I will want to show you something. I'll click file and save. Then I'll head to my browser and refresh. So this is a U with a glyph. The glyph is already there. You can see the glyph. I just highlighted the glyph. The glyph is already there, but the U is not there already. So I will head back to my notepad and add a capital U or a small u, just U before the ampersand. And then I click on file, I click save, head back to my browser, I refresh. So you can see this is a U with a glyph. So I can equally twist the number. I can do 770, 769. I click file, I save, head to my browser, refresh. You can see the glyph has changed. I can equally, we are used to these glyphs. I can equally change to 768. Click file, save, and then refresh. You can equally see that the glyph has also changed. We can do 771. Click file, click save, refresh. You can see the glyph. And then I can equally change the U to A, small letter A, if I want. So it will now be, this is an A with a glyph. So I click file, I click save, I refresh. So this is an A with a glyph. So I would like to add therefore. It's a special character. So I will head back to my notepad and then I will simply type ampersand THERE 4 semicolon 5. I want to type that 5 is not equal to 1 over 5. So ampersand NE represents 5 is not equal to, it represents not equal to, then 1 over 5 ampersand frac FRAC 1 5 semicolon. So I just wrote therefore 5 is not equal to 1 over 5. So therefore 5 is not equal to 1 over 5 as highlighted. So I will click File, Save, head to my browser, and refresh. Therefore, 5 is not equal to 1 over 5. Therefore, 5 is not equal to 1 over 5. This is an A with a glyph. Therefore, 5 is not equal to 1 over 5. It doesn't make any sense. It's just for educational purposes. So, additionally, I will add HTML emojis. It would have been a separate video, a separate topic, but I will simply want to use the same energy to talk about HTML emojis. So, emojis are small graphical icons that are used to express things like your emotions or ideas. They are used to express mainly emotions and ideas. So you can browse or you can Google emojis and their codes, and then you simply copy them and paste. Emojis can be laughter, it can be tears of joy, it can be happiness, it can be a heart, love, anger, angry. There are so many emojis, there are so many icons you can use to represent several things. And so I will go to my notepad and just as usual, emojis are entity numbers. So I will type my ampersand hash hash, for example 128516 with a semicolon, ampersand hash 192516. You can see it is a number, an entity number. So I click File, I click Save, I go to my browser and refresh. So you see that this is a laughter emoji. You can see this is a laughter emoji. And then I can add 10084 emoji. 10084. I don't have them offhand. You have to Google them to get them. So I click File, I click Save, and then I refresh. So that's a love or a heart emoji. And so I can add 128525 emoji. Remember to close with a semicolon, and you click File and Save, and then I refresh. Oh, that's another emoji. And then I will add 128079 emoji. I will close with a semicolon. I click File, Save, and then I refresh. That's a raised hands or clapping hands. And then I will also type 129300. I hope I got it right. 129300. I click File, I click Save, and then I refresh. Yeah, that's a thinking face. That's a thinking face. So I just have the intention of trying out 5 emojis, from laughter to a big heart to love to raising hands or clapping hands, and then a thinking face. So I would implore you to go to Google, browse as much as you can, try out as much as you can. There are mathematical formulas, there are so many of them, so many HTML character entities that you can talk about. So in this video, we have actually talked about HTML character entities, and we talked about the entity names and the entity numbers, and we have talked about how they are represented. And in addition, we have talked about HTML emojis, which are also represented with HTML entity numbers. And so I appreciate your time playing this video and learning, and I would advise that you click the subscribe button for our next video. Thank you so much. I'm Reverend Dr. Namchez. Goodbye.